Don't change on my account.
Whoever wanted to Drunk and Disorderly podcast brought to you by the Launchpad Media. Go to www.thelaunchpadmedia.com for all your podcasting needs. You can hang out with us there. You can hang out with Johnny Rocket and Alex Merced. And I'm telling you, Sounds Like Liberty is an amazing podcast that's just doing weird shit that's really fun. So definitely go check that out. Scrolling on the bottom of the screen, you can see our other places. Here's the deal. Within the next month, I'm told, Be Live is going to let us stream to YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook at the same time. So that's going to be exciting. So if you haven't liked our YouTube page, fix yourself. And also, to help us afford the upgrade that's going to cost, you should go to anchor.fm/Ozaraptor or subscribestar.com. Yeah. Oh, man, it's not working for me now. Subscribestar.com/drunk-n-disorderly and help us out because we're running on a slight deficit right now. But it's what we do. We love what we do. We love spreading liberty. And really this money is mostly just going to cover some of the production costs and getting to conventions and tabling and stuff. Also, real quick, if you would like to sponsor a podcast, we have affordable plans, and we can talk about specifics. Yeah, we have a growing, energetic fan base. Have I killed enough time? Is everyone ready? Yeah, everyone's ready. Dre, take that shit away.
Hello, and welcome back, everyone. It was weird. Oh, my mic is muted.
Sorry, I was trying to mute me, and I muted you for some dumb reason. Start over.
All right, guys. Welcome back to me. I took a week off, and that was weird. I also quit my job Friday and woke up Saturday morning and felt really weird. I do not have a job lined up. I don't know what I want to do, and this is what I'm going to do for now. So, yay. I also did a little shopping, have a new little Kerry piece that I'm super excited about.
Oh, nice.
I love it. It's super simple. It works. My aim is amazing with it right off the bat. So I'm fucking happy. And I got a little tiny discount on it, and I didn't have to brag about. But anyway, so there's that. I'm happy about that. So,
Thanks, John. Thanks, John.
Oh, actually, it's a discount that I negotiated with the range that I bought it at when I went shooting the other day to take out some frustration and get some range time in.
How was that? How was your range day? Because I know you desperately needed that.
It was good. And I normally don't get to go by myself. And I usually have a lot of people telling me exactly what I'm doing wrong and but not so much how to correct it, which is really all I want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing something wrong, tell me how to fix it. That's all, great. I'm doing something wrong. I'll accept that.
What'd your target look like? Did your target reflect that you were doing something wrong?
Well, this time I did pretty well. My first magazine, I hit where I was trying to hit. So I was happy with that.
Yeah, that's a win.
Yeah, so I'm happy. The last time I was at the range, there may have been tears. I don't know. Anyway, I was hungover and frustrated, and that's how it comes out.
I know you were ready to get out of that job.
Yeah, beyond ready. And, I felt really bad not giving notice. It's the first time, I think, in my life that I've ever been like, hey, sorry, peace out. But it needed to happen. It was, when I have to talk myself out of driving into a tree on the way to work, and I'm losing weight that I'm not trying to lose, and it's having such a detrimental effect on my life. It's time to say goodbye. So,
well, that's freedom of association, baby. When you get ready to disassociate with somebody, you shouldn't have to give a 2-week notice. They're not going to give you a 2-week notice when they want to get rid of you.
Exactly. And that's what I kept thinking, and they asked a lot of us. And so I kind of don't feel as bad as I should about not giving notice, but so there we are. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Kerry McKennon to the show tonight.
Yay!
From the great state of Texas. He is the county coordinator for the LP, and he is also the chair of the LP Outright Caucus. And so we are very happy to have you, sir. I love the coat.
Okay. It's rough being the fairy godfather of the Libertarian Party.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's helpful. That completes the look for sure. You know,
And I do have offers that you cannot refuse.
He does.
Look, she can't even
Are
talk.
we talking about Godfather's Pizza? Because I just ate, but I can always go for Godfather's Pizza.
do they have that in Texas?
They do actually have Godfather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was a Nebraska thing. I don't know why.
No,
There's
it stretches down.
It just comes down to like Dallas, Fort Worth, and the stretches down. Really?
Giggity.
Oh my God.
I warned you.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh.
This is where we are tonight. I'm just warning everybody. I had a good night. Like, I hit 30 calls today. I tied my record, and no one yelled at me, so I'm in a good mood. I got a lot of sleep last night, and I got laid. So we're firing on our cylinders. Let's do this.
So, Kerry, what's the weather like there right now? Here we've got some rain that's trying to be something else, trying to be ice, or it's nasty here. Is it nasty there for you tonight?
It's clear here, but it's quite chilly.
What's chilly in Texas?
Well, I mean, for some, it's right at freezing.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, chilly is when it's down to like 12 degrees, when your water might freeze.
Right.
For me, that's when it's cold, because if I got water and heat, it can be 20, 40 below outside. I don't care, because I don't have to work in the outside. Those people that have to work outside, it's probably very chilly for them. We are expected to see some wintry mix right along the panhandle here as it comes in and goes right across through the Red River Valley there, right with the great state of Oklahoma and Texas. So travel conditions will be difficult in the morning as you head to school and work. So please take precautions. Leave early and be safe.
That sounds literally like the text I got from my boss tonight.
So if you guys got snow in Texas, would shit just shut down?
No, because people are stupid. People, we'll get like an inch and a half.
This is a huge
You guys get
state.
snow.
Parts of Texas get snow. It's not like
Well, the panhandle of Texas had snow, last week?
Yeah, and last year or a year ago, I had 18 inches in one day
Oh, wow.
of snow before you get Caddy down there in the corner.
Too late.
So, 18 inches for most people don't know how to drive in that. So,
Well, you shouldn't drive in that. That's
I'm
when you
from
call in
Nebraska,
sick.
and I don't know how to drive in 18 inches.
Yeah, you call in sick. Take a personal day. And listen, I know growing up in Michigan and dealing with snow all the time, I would hear, yeah, I know it's horrible out there, but I can't call in. I'll lose a day's work. Yeah, well, not calling in, you could lose like hundreds of days' work.
Yeah, like
in a body cast or dead.
So as the millennial of the group, I can tell you that sounds fucking amazing.
Gen Xer.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, closet boomer. We get it.
I'm over 50. I'll be 51 in December, so
That's
like
still Gen X, right?
it's like you're almost all my kids.
Look, if you're watching and you're active in the Liberty Movement and you don't know who Kerry McKennon is, we aim to fix that tonight because you absolutely should.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kerry, I know last cycle you ran for lieutenant governor in Texas.
I did.
And got some pretty decent numbers.
We got almost 184,000 people to vote for us, which, doesn't sound like much if you're looking at about 8.5 million people voting. But to be an openly gay man from the panhandle of Texas, living in a town of 1,202 people where you and your husband are the token gays there, it ends up being that when people don't expect you to be somebody running a statewide campaign because what do you mean you're openly gay and you're not a Democrat?
Mm-hmm.
So we fight that battle, but we also fight the battle in the fact of, well, what do you mean that you want people to be held accountable, and if they can afford it, they should be able to buy it for whatever it takes to protect themselves in any means possible. So when you're that type of person, people are like, wait a second. I don't understand you. And so in the state of Texas, just like in any state, when you're a libertarian, you are actually explaining what libertarianism is and what it means to fight the good fight for liberty for every individual, not just a select few. And so your moments that you spend with people is extreme education on a fast-paced level. And then you've got to go into that whole point of this is who I am. I mean, when I ran for the Texas House, I got a phone call in like 3:00 in the afternoon, and this old man came on. He goes, hello, are you that faggot running for the Texas House? And I said, yes, sir, I am. How can I help you? And he goes, well, I don't like that person that's running that Republican because he's a complete asshole. But, even though you're a faggot, I'm going to vote for you. And I said, thank you, sir. And please tell your friends to do the same. He's like late 70s, 80s. He just knows he's not happy with the current situation. And he wants to change. He doesn't have to have things thrown down his throat about, you're not supposed to use the word faggot anymore, sir. He doesn't care about that. He just wants that there's change.
You consider that, don't you, when you're having those interactions? Because I know that as an openly bi individual, I do. I tend to consider that. I consider generational culture, and I consider demographic culture and geographic culture. All of those things come into play with that. Beating somebody up for something that is a very normal part of their vernacular where they're at, versus taking the time to educate them about kindly, and it takes time. Yeah. About why that's a problem. It's hard to not jump to that for me. I'm not going to lie. It's hard for me to be like, take a breath, don't jump on somebody. So what's the trick? What's the trick when that happens? Because even though, like I said, even for me, my gut reaction is, what the fuck did you just say? Right? Even though I know that this is generational, or I know that it's demographic or cultural, I know that still is my knee-jerk reaction. So what's the key to kind of handling that?
Well, you have to know that the actual situation and the location that you're at. You have to plan for that. You're not at the club where you can go from zero to prissy queen in 2 seconds. Right. You have to also understand that if those people are actually talking to you, there's only one of two reasons that they're engaging you in the first place. One is because they want to get a rise out you in the first place. And the other is because they're legitimately interested in what you stand for, what you represent, and what liberty means. When I was running for lieutenant governor, I had a lady come up to me and she goes, I can't vote for you because you're a homosexual. And, with my Christian faith, I just can't do that. And I said, I understand that, ma'am. But, the God that I know is a loving God, not a hateful God. And I hope that you find that loving God someday. And she wasn't expecting that at all. No. I don't have to, now some people, within the Libertarian Party, just like every party, not everybody's a Christian.
Right.
So they may not respond that way, but to know some of the ways to respond to people in general and know that your job is to educate and get the vote and not correct them and fix them, because that's not your job, can be quite difficult, especially with somebody in your face screaming at you and yelling at you and calling you names. At some point, you might have to have security. I mean, the point that libertarians have to have security when they're running, that's the point that we're winning big time.
Right. That's probably a good thing. I hate to say. I mean,
I can't wait till that job opens up to where
right.
I get to go be a security analyst for candidates because we have the money to afford that. That'll be great.
Somebody said, well, Kerry, why don't you run for president? Because we really don't like anybody that's running. I go, because y'all wouldn't like the fact that I would have outright the Black Panthers as my security. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, it'd be all Black Panthers and GSMs that would be out there with guns,
baseball bats,
and baseball bats running around making sure that I'm secure.
Mhm.
And that would be a topic of conversation that many people in the Libertarian Party would not want to have, with the fact that, I get it all the time. Do we really want an openly gay man representing the party, being the face of the party? And
why does it
I
matter?
don't want that to be happening.
That happens in the LP?
Hey, look, you would think it doesn't happen in the LP, but it does. That happens in the LP. By erasure happens in the LP. Negative speech towards transgendered individuals happened in the LP. We had a transgender.
I do see that.
We had a transgender activist not that many years ago, Kerry, in Kansas who killed herself because of hazing, even among party members. Tracy Baker, who was a transgendered activist in Oklahoma, received death threats from party members.
Yeah. And we have, back in some individuals that are part of the GSM crowd, and that's a huge encompassing crowd, that gender and sexual minority crowd, have received many threats from people in the party who, in their own mind, they're well-meaning, okay? Because I understand where they're coming from. And a lot of people say, how can you understand where they're coming from? I'm going, look, I understand that we've got to put the best face forward, and the best face forward to reach all those voters is sometimes that straight-laced, suit-wearing lawyer, accountant, who has never had any trouble with the law ever, who is perfectly groomed, who is handsome, and who has 2.5 kids and a dog, and either a gorgeous husband or a gorgeous wife on their side, and they're completely straight. And because that is comfortable to the majority of the American voter. Our job as libertarians, based on the fact of the change that we want and the fact that we want liberty to happen, and we're tired of not having our liberty, is we can't be comfortable anymore. Comfortable gets us nowhere. That doesn't mean that I don't go out in a suit and tie, because I do. That doesn't mean I don't talk respectfully, and that I don't sound like I'm well versed and have good wordsmithing. But there's times that I just tell people, I don't really care what you do. I had a reporter in Houston wanted to know, well, so being openly gay, what does that mean about you with your husband and Walter? And I go, did you actually ask Dan Patrick what him and his wife do in the bedroom?
Right.
I guarantee you it's boring as hell.
Why is that always an issue? It was an issue for me in my campaign when I ran. It's been an issue for you and all of yours, because you're openly gay, because I'm openly bi, because we don't hide that. That became the issue, not the fact that in Oklahoma, the representative that held the seat I was running for had authored and pushed through a bill that allows the police to collect a DNA sample from you if you are arrested for any felony and most misdemeanors, and cross-check it for hits at the goddamn computer. Right. No right to self-incrimination, no warrantless search and seizure protection, no nothing. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about that somebody dug up that I used to have a girlfriend. Are you fucking kidding me?
These are not things that A, should go on resumes, B, that matter in any of these situations. So I don't understand why it's so forefront of these fucking reporters' questions. Let's talk about liberty. Let's talk about what are the issues you're running on. How are you going to beat the R's and the D's and bury them with sense and policy and, principles that will outshine them every time?
If you belong to any minority group, you're not a candidate. You're a gay candidate. You're an African-American candidate. You're a female candidate. They have to put that in front of it. You stop being just a candidate. And that part of it's bullshit.
God forbid if you were a African-American lesbian, transgender Jewish woman. Oh my, their heads would explode.
Right.
Well, every headline would have to be
every headline that I did was openly gay libertarian candidate, Kerry McKennon, openly gay libertarian. And I was like, you know, I don't understand that. I get it. It sells papers, and you know, I get that they got to have viewers. My
Sure.
hope is that after the fact, that they're actually reading the article and not just the headline, which sadly too many people do, and finding out what liberty is. You know, we don't have, you know, my first name is Kerry. We did hashtag open Kerry
What a great
everywhere.
story. I love it.
And the thing is based on what was going on with the lieutenant governor race in 2018, we didn't really have. I mean, they were talking about bathroom issues, and you know, we got absolutely no traction on that at all. I ran two campaigns. I ran for the House. I ran three campaigns: the Texas House, the Texas Senate. I ran the Texas House, the Texas Senate at the same time because it was a special election, and lieutenant governor. And not once did we ever bring up my sexuality when we were talking, except on a very few podcasts that was something we talked about, and we talked about how the press uses it. But it was not part of our press releases. It was not part of it. And I don't know if that was a mistake or not.
I don't know, because for me, we didn't put it out there. I certainly don't hide it, right? That's not me. But we kind of did the same thing, right? We didn't want to make it the campaign issue. We wanted to talk about issues, but that didn't seem to stop it from coming up. The transgender bathroom thing was going on then, and I took a pretty hardline, pretty vocal stance, and maybe because of that, people started digging and stuff started coming up. But it wouldn't have changed my stance, even if I had known, you know,
Sure.
I wouldn't have changed my stance. That's the stance I got the death threat for.
I mean, we're facing on our website, McKennon 2020, which is where you go, and that's where you can donate. And Texas has a new thing now where we have to do a filing fee as a third party, and we're not on the primaries, but our filing fees go to support the primaries. So my filing fee for Senate to run the Senate race is $5,000.
God.
We collected 3,000. We're about 2,000 away, but the issue is that doesn't go to the state party. That doesn't help the state party anyway. There is no primaries. It's basically a poll tax for us to get on the ballot. And so that doesn't mean we're not fighting it, but we still got to have it to make it happen.
Is there no alternative? You can't collect signatures. You can't petition in lieu of fee.
You can collect signatures, but Texas is the only state that's worse than Texas is Florida when it comes to collecting signatures. People cannot have voted in the primaries because then they're ineligible. January up until January happens. They give us an actual time that we can do that. We would have to collect 5,000 signatures of registered voters in the state of Texas. Now, luckily, they don't say we have to have a certain amount from each individual county because there was no way to have that happen.
Right.
The next thing is they verify those by doing a random selection. So they go in and they take out several pages. They check those. So you have to have not 5,000. You got to have 7,500 or 10,000 signatures, depending on how you're going to do that. Texas being such a large state and the infrastructure that the LP has in Texas makes it virtually impossible to make that happen. Now, we did learn that those actual collecting those signatures we own them now. But if we had to do it professionally and get somebody to do it professionally for us, it would be
$160,000,
$300 to $3 a signature. So you're looking at $5,000 to $15,000, maybe $30,000, depending on how it would work out financially. The other big issue within that whole thing is you have to go turn it in. And when they go and see it, you don't get a time frame to do it later on. Like you don't get to correct the situation. You turn it in, it's either approved or not. So we would have to turn it in well enough in advance for them to be able to tell us that we did not meet the criteria so that we could have the 5,000 anyway, or start over And that deadline is December 9th. We are going on December 6th to the state capitol to pay all of our stuff and make it all happen. But that's every single office right now. Now there's several lawsuits that are going on to fight that, but the only good thing that happened out of the deal is even though we have to pay that, our threshold went from 5% for statewide candidates to 2%.
Okay, that's good.
It's much easier to get to stay on the ballot. So if you look at what we would have to do if we lost ballot access and we had to pay petition drive in the state of Texas to make that happen, that's probably $250,000 to $500,000 to do that petition drive. First of all, LP Texas and LP National does not have the money to help us do that. And there is no way that Texas would just fall off the map at that point as part of a state that was voting in. So it's much easier for us to have local people get those signatures. Now, I'm lucky being a statewide candidate, my signatures could be from across the state. But if you're running in a little House district, your signatures can only be from that House district, period. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. I think there's some good things to come out of it. The 2% is good. The fact that our paper candidates are not going to be paper candidates. They're going to have to be serious candidates. They're going to have to be libertarian candidates because people ain't going to donate to them if they're not libertarian candidates to have the filing fee, or they're going to have to announce way sooner, which spreads liberty faster than the last minute of going and doing it at the last minute. We started October 2nd. That was too late. Everybody that's wanted to run this year should have started last year at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But that, live and learn.
Is the problem with a lot of our candidates right now that, because I've been noticing this, a lot of campaigns are waiting till the last minute to start, and I feel like that's hurting us. Like there's someone in Nebraska that I know is going to run, and they're not announcing, so I can't talk about it.
Do you know why they're not announcing? They're not announcing because they don't want somebody else that doesn't like them to jump on the bandwagon and announce and steal their thunder, and them have to have competition at the convention, whatever convention it is, or if it's the primary.
To be fair, we did do that to someone who wasn't a libertarian trying to run on our ticket. But
I understand that. But I'm saying, if you wait till the last minute and nobody else is announced and you go and you sign the paperwork, sometimes libertarians are a little hesitant to pull the trigger of NOTA. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's better not to have a chair of the national party than to have a bad chair. I'm not that I'm getting into that discussion, and not that I want to talk about that, and not that I'm referencing the current chair. I'm just using that as an example because it's a much bigger. There are several issues going on in that thing right now.
Yeah.
The fact that it's better for us to have no candidate in that race than somebody who's a bigot,
right?
And who's going to spew hate across. They're okay. It's okay for them to have that viewpoint. It's okay for them to have those feelings. It's okay for them to think that way. That's their opinion and they're entitled to it. But it's not okay for them to be a representative of the party and do so. Mm-hmm. And to say that. And too often we have milquetoast candidates. And we have not had fearless, bold, libertarian candidates. And I'm not saying they got to be audacious. I'm not saying they got to get on stage and dance naked. I'm not saying
if they're hot, though.
Well,
yeah, let's be honest. That was a disturbing thing because James Weeks is less attractive than me in that saying something.
Well,
it was a disturbing thing because there were cameras going too. So
for you to say that is a little hurtful because there are people out there that are attracted to James Weeks. Mm-hmm. I don't know any of them, but I'm sure there are.
Look. There's someone who's attracted to me. So there's someone.
Somebody actually had sex with you this weekend, and I found that. I found that utterly surprising.
She married me even, and if you could see how she looked in that corset that she sent me the pictures of today. Oh my God, you'd be wondering.
She's a nice lady. Every once in a while, would question her sanity, but that's whatever.
So if you haven't listened to us before, we have a running gag that. The only reason that my wife is with me is I caught her on a really bad downswing, and now she feels sorry for me.
She was slumming, and she stuck with him.
Rebounds usually don't work, but I'm proud of you for making it work.
I have been
on it,
banging those boards down there in the paint, getting them rebounds like a motherfucker.
I mean, what you were asking about, I've always been a big proponent of announcing early and starting early, but that doesn't always work. It does kind of depend on where you're at, what that local culture is, and what's going on in regionally. I think as libertarians, when we talk elections, we like to talk about this national picture, right? Nationally, these should be the 3 issues that we're pushing, and everybody nationally should be doing the same thing. And here's the reality: the same thing does not work in the same places. We really do need smaller, more localized, more regional plans. And that speaks to libertarianism, right? We're talking about smaller, more localized, more regional governments and more regional structures. That same thing that we say works better at the government level, that works better in our lives, that works better in our campaigns. It just does.
So look, we've got to take a playbook, whether people like it or not, a playbook from the Democrats and Republicans, where we start people out locally, we build them up, we build up their personalities, we build up people that know who they are, their following, their money base, so that they can move forward and they can win those big races. Sadly, because of our ballot access stuff, we have to have, I don't want to say larger than life, but we got to have really awesome, great libertarians that are bold running in those major spots. That's the reason we chose to run for senator, because Texas deserves someone bigger than Texas running. And I'm not saying I'm bigger than Texas, but as big as Texas running.
You're certainly as fabulous as Texas.
That is correct. I'm as fabulous as Texas. I almost have my own zip code. Thank you very much. But, our campaign's not talking about the normal libertarian things. We're talking about improving immigration reform to make it where, I saw a great documentary on monarchs and how monarchs don't worry about the border, and how they winter in Mexico and they summer everywhere else, and how they go and they do what they're supposed to do, and they're because they add something to wherever they're at, that beauty and that natural flight, that we don't think of immigrants in that way. We don't think of immigrants as of what they add, only what they take away. And we have to approach that in a different way. We're talking about solving veterans affairs and the opioid crisis. And we're using all 3 of those of how we can tie them together. It is sad that the Libertarian Party and Libertarian candidates don't talk about veterans affairs. They don't talk about the opioid crisis, which ties into our already topic that we're going to get talked about, which is marijuana and mushrooms and ending the drug war. And we don't talk about veterans affairs in the aspect of ending all wars and pro-peace. We've got away from doing that. And even worse, so have the Democrats, who have a much bigger voice than we do. They've got away from anti-war, pro-peace. And if we don't pick up that mantle and we allow those in power to still do everything in their power to keep us in perpetual military excursions or wars or whatever you want to call them, where our greatest assets of people are dying for resources. That's the real aspect. That's the real hard code fact of climate change, if you think about it. When you think about them talking about climate change and us talking about the resources that are out there, those that die first in climate change are the individuals that are out there fighting for those resources that have now become so important to the powers that be. And it's just sad. And then when they look, I understand that there's this faction of the Libertarian Party that is anti-military. We really need to talk about being anti-war. We need to talk about pro-peace, and we need to understand that some of that military personnel, I get it, that people want to vilify them and people want to talk in a way that is, because we have some great ex-veterans in the Libertarian Party. And if you don't know that, then shame on you. But we do. And luckily, those that are in the Libertarian Party realize that it's okay for them to treat their PTSD with alternative drugs, and screw the government for not allowing me to do so.
Right.
And the sad part of the fact that the opioid crisis is only important now because it's affecting white America. We didn't care about when it was crack and cocaine and meth, because those are all poor people and people of color. So who cares? That's the sad reality. And then the fact that on top of that, every bit of that is dealt with in the fact that we have mass incarceration in this country that is greater than any other country, and it is at a higher percentage of people of color. And if you think GSMs don't get treated like shit in prison, then you've got another thing coming, because they are used in prison as either sex slaves or they are beaten and killed. And I just got past drunk and disorderly because I became the bad drunk at the party who speaks a little bit of stuff that's like, great, you blew our buzz, Kerry. Thanks a lot.
No, because it's all true.
All those movies are accurate? That's so sad.
I did criminal justice minor when I was in college, because this is one of my passion projects, is trying to get criminal justice reform. And so people don't understand this. Men are raped more than women in America because our prison systems are fucking there's not a word for how bad our prison systems are.
Isn't like 90% of the rapes that happen to men in jail in America or something like that? It's like a huge.
I think it's a little lower than that, but
it's a high percentage.
If you add the military in, you're definitely getting there.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh, guys, yeah, seriously, all of the sexual assaults in the 90s in the military, it was every day. Women were getting run over with cars because they had reported sexual assaults in the military. Yeah. We saw
when you're a man in the military and you're sexually assaulted, it was bad enough.
It was worse.
If you're a man, you don't fucking talk about it.
No, and all of those victims were discharged. Usually, I just was reading something about this. The big discharge, number one discharge in the 90s from the military was personality disorder. So people who had undergone psychiatric evaluation and had been cleared, meaning when they enlisted, they didn't have a personality disorder. Now, all of a sudden, they have a psychiatric condition that they would have had from birth, because we're going to discharge them because they're sexual assault victims. That happened. That's real.
Well, and you also have to remember, because those, even after those individuals come back, they have a added PTSD to not only war, but now they have a intimacy PTSD that they have to deal with. And so they can't get it treated through alternative drugs or drugs that are currently illegal based on the state of Texas or the country. Right. And they have to treat them with opiates. And then we have a police state, for all intents and purposes, in this country, where they are spending money stopping individuals simply because of the drugs that they have, when rape kits go completely unprocessed in many states, in many cities. And so those criminals right there, that criminality never gets done.
Never gets done.
I mean, there's something, I think I read somewhere, and you know, somebody's going to go, okay, well, Kerry got a half Pinocchio because he didn't have the numbers right. But it's like over 40,000 rape kits just in Austin that are waiting to be processed.
No, I've seen those numbers.
Just in Texas.
In any city, in any big city, they are ridiculously huge. Like, there's just rape kits sitting in a warehouse collecting dust that have never been touched. Why have they never been touched?
Because they refuse to have the money for it.
Sometimes. And it really depends on where those rape kits are located, right? So if you're talking small town Oklahoma or small town Texas or small town Louisiana, you know, we just saw Netflix did the whole An Innocent Man, where individuals were accused of rape and murder because they were just the dude in town the sheriff didn't want to deal with anymore, in one case. And in another case, because the actual perpetrator had a connection to the sheriff. it just depends on where you're going about why things aren't getting done. In Texas, a few years back, you guys had hundreds of cases thrown out because of a forensic examiner planting evidence using false evidence. So sometimes there are a million reasons why they aren't getting tested, but it's negligence is why. I mean,
well, and because of that, because of those things not getting tested, because we have people that are giving false testimony or rigging evidence. I mean, we have individuals that have been innocent that have been put to death in the state of Texas.
Oh yeah, Texas capital state. So
I mean, I'm totally anti-death penalty. I know that there's a lot of libertarians that aren't, but you know, I have never thought that the government was not infallible. And until they can be that way, they have no right to control my life in any shape, form, or fashion. And that includes putting me to death.
Yeah, and I think Tom Arnold just made a really good comment. He said that the drug war brings in cash and property seizures, and rape isn't profitable for the government.
Sure.
Yeah, that doesn't bring any revenue. Well, if they can make a conviction, you know, they can get the profit off whoever they lock up, right?
Well, if they've got anything, but let's get honest. Think about serial criminals, rapists, murderers. Most of them weren't affluent.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the GSM community and you look at especially trans women of color are particularly raped and murdered in this country at a higher percentage. If you look at Native American women are extremely raped and murdered and abused in this country, to the fact that because it happens on a sovereign reservation, we don't actually have the real numbers of that, and they're probably much higher than what is being reported. Right. And those individual women are, you talk about someone that the government really sees as a second-class citizen. I mean, that's a sad thing. And, you know, we're coming up on the fact that a lady is having to fight to be a United States representative that is from a treaty 165 years ago or something, and she's having to fight that. Like, why is it taking so long? It's because the powers that be. What's going to happen is when libertarians, because we speak truth, and because we speak to liberty and we speak to justice, and we speak about injustice that happens across the country and across the world, that individuals are going to start waking up. And I hate to use the word that they're woke or that they wake up, but they're going to really start going, wait a second. When I have individuals that come up and talk to me and they're like, Kerry, I don't understand why this is happening, and I don't trust the government anymore. And these are people that are in their 70s and 80s who've trusted the government because they were part of the greatest generation in the world for World War II, and they're scared. And they're scared that, it could be them that the cop shoots them through the window. It could be them that gets killed for a traffic light. It could be them who is mistaken because she's 80 years old and she took the earrings out of her purse to test to see if they matched the scarf in the department store, and she was accosted because they thought she was going to steal it, and she simply didn't want everybody to see her canary diamond earrings because she didn't want to be robbed.
Yeah, it happens. It happens all the time.
It's the saddest part is when you see individuals across the globe that are standing up and are fighting for liberty, and we are supposed to be the greatest nation in the world in regards to liberty and freedom, and we are okay with less freedom than we had when we had the Revolutionary War. It's completely, totally sad. Thank God for the internet, because I think a lot of people are waking up because of the internet and social media.
Absolutely.
I think much like the television did for the Nixon-Kennedy debates and allowed Kennedy to beat Nixon because the way Nixon looked on camera and the way he came across, as opposed to the radio ads that have been in the past. I think that social media podcast that our candidates go on, and podcasts that talk to liberty and injustice and fight the good fight, are going to wake up people as we go. Is it going to happen in 2020? I can't tell you that. I think we're going to have really great numbers.